This week, we are talking about The Reluctant Traveler, Murdaugh Murder, and some rad things, and I might talk about Top Gun. Maybe. Let's find out. And now your host, Mike Indeglio.
That's a slight dig at me taking too long, even though I say I'll take short, but my name is Mike Indeglio. That's Keith Varney. Welcome to K&M Geekly. Just a sneak peek at two geeks talking about some of the things that have been getting them through their week, and we need it tonight, though. We might not need any help, as it may finally snow, maybe? I got a friend who told me that it might snow like a half an inch or something.
They say we might get some here, but I'll believe it when I see it. And as just to exculpate you, that was not a snarky reference about you being slow. That was me trying to update the slate and save it as the intro was going, hoping it was going to come up in time. And I pressed save literally a split second before it went up, so it's too late.
Normally, I don't pay enough attention, generally, but you're going to notice I'm looking out the window a lot today because I'm waiting for the maintenance men. Now, we were just talking, I guess we might as well talk about this, Keith, because you own a home, and I've not ever owned a home. I've rented my whole life, and so there is a benefit, as in people come to your house and fix things, but the difference here is when these guys come, I have to make sure that, A, I hide the little fire pit on my terrace, because I'm not allowed to have that. Right. I've got to make sure that there's no accoutrement that could indicate that. I've got to make sure that at least one or two of the cats are in the other room because we're not supposed to have more than one cat. And also, I don't know that it matters, but I have a lot of speakers hung on my wall now after my update of my sound system, and so I don't know if that's going to cause any sort of issue with the whole security deposit. So I'm a little freaked out. So I'm not sure that's worth it. I'd rather just pay a guy.
We're getting paranoid. No, I've 100% done that. When in college, we had my girlfriend at the time and I were renting an apartment, and no pets at all. And this place wasn't just here are the things you can't do. They were angry about it. This was the least friendly building I've ever been in my life. And of course, we have two cats. We got two cats, and our maintenance guy came in at the last set, with very little warning, and we just stuffed the cats in the closet and hoped they wouldn't escape. And of course, immediately they come bounding up. Hi! Yeah,
you can't hide it. Well, we actually found, my brother has rented. My brother's adopted 7 dogs from this rescue called Diane's. They'll just...
You're not supposed to rent. You're not supposed to give them back.
And they've, it's... some would say too many dogs. But most of them are it reminded me of our friend Jillian, who has they're old dogs that are seeing their final pasture, if you will. So that's most of his dogs. So it's not really 7 dogs. It's more combined. It's more 3 dogs.
The way Jillian put it is that when she picked them up from the shelter, here, please throw these away for us.
Yeah. So anyway, me and Jen always say we shouldn't go into Diane's. It's on the way to my brother's house because they're just going to throw dogs at us, and we're trying to not have a dog until we buy a house.
And yet you're texting me.
Well, because
2 days ago
we're driving by and we said to my brother we'll be there at 4, and it was 3:30, and family, we didn't want to spend the extra half hour with them.
So you drove around the block so as not to accidentally spend a half an hour with your family?
No, we were well, you know what? Let's get a coffee and just go in Diane's and see, if there just happens to be, the perfect dog there, right? No way. No chance, right?
Yeah.
And our big thing is, because a couple of our cats, you know how it is with our thing is we're not ever getting a dog.
You have 3 cats in an apartment.
With the exception of one, we made a good decision on all of them, as far as, the energy and what kind of animal we wanted. And with dogs,
cat.
Yeah. I do too, but he was adopted under duress, and it worked out, but not the point. So we're gonna make sure we get a nice calm dog who's quiet, and we're gonna assess energy. We're gonna bring them home and walk it and make it introduce the cats and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, we go into this place. We're looking around, and there's just a dog sitting outside in one of the runs, just calmly, quiet, beautiful gray dog with one blue eye, and he's a little sizable for what seems to be a small dog. And we go meet this dog, and when we go outside to the dog runs, Keith, we didn't see around the corner. There was probably 20 other dogs and they go ape shit and just cacophony, loud sounds, barking, jumping. But this dog, sat calm, didn't make a peep, didn't make a sound, just came up, sniffed, licked my hand, and I was like, uh-oh. This is what
is right.
This is not good. So quiet, so clean. So the guy comes out and he's like, hey, you want to just take the dog in the back room? Didn't make us fill out anything. I was like, yeah, we took her back. She's playing. The whole time we were there, didn't bark, didn't peep, didn't piss on the floor, nothing. Loves Jen, loves me, everything. And I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, I can't have this dog.
It's the problem.
Obviously, I love this dog. And I'm trying to keep my heart not being involved. I'm just sitting there, the dog is playing calmly, no nipping, no biting, none of the puppy stuff. And I'm like,
right.
I'm like, well, maybe it's like, could be 6 months because it's kind of bigger and it's very well behaved. And I'm like, how old's this dog? And they're like, 12 weeks. And I was like, oh shit, why is it so big? And they're like, well, it's a Grand Pyrenees and Australian Shepherd mix. And I was like, well, what? It's a female, so it's gonna be on the smaller side. But what's the range? They're like, anyway, between like 60 and 110 pounds. And I was like, oh my God, I can't have this dog. So anyway, we leave. And every day since, I have the application just saved on my phone. I didn't send it. And we're like, well, any day, because great dog. It's going to be adopted any day. Yeah. Keep looking back, and every day it's like, still there, still there, still there. And we keep telling ourselves, like, we can't have this dog. We can't have this dog. We're trying to buy a house. We talk about, like, adopting a kid, like, all this. We're having all these life conversations, and the dog doesn't quite fit in the picture just yet, but maybe sometimes, Keith, life throws you a curveball.
Could be fate. Yeah, we're going to talk more about that slip offline. But
what slip? What did I say?
The other thing you might be adopting? We haven't talked about that.
Yeah, we haven't talked about it.
Okay, anyway.
We'll talk about it.
I will say this. I'm going to say two things.
Okay.
I think I already said these both to you. One, are you insane?
Right. Good. Thank you.
You can't possibly get a dog in a 2-bedroom apartment with 3 cats already.
Absolutely right. Although it says good with cats. So the dog's story, though, it was bred in because it's like one of those, like designer breed dogs.
Right.
Because they're very good temperaments, as you're going to probably mention in a second. And somebody had rescued it or bought it from a litter down south and given it to this old lady who lives in either an assisted living facility or a smaller a trailer or something. She's like, I love this dog. It's well trained. I've already started it, but I can't. It's going to be too big. So it was given to this rescue. So they already know it's good with cats. They know it's good with kids. It's all the stuff, Keith. It checks every box except gigantic.
Well, but and all right. So here's part 2. Part 1 is don't do this, you idiots.
Okay, fair. I'll take it.
Part 2 is a hearty endorsement of the Pyrenees.
Yeah, thanks.
My father adopted in a actually very similar situation. It was a rescue. Got it from the south. Poor thing. Because they are cold weather dogs. They want to be in the cold, in the snow. Like they just couldn't possibly be happier. And my father had a great French Pyrenees who was the 110, 115 pound dog at his height. Could not be sweeter, kinder, gentler. And I just loved this dog and was so sweet and kind, great with little kittens. We had this great picture of him. My father was breeding rabbits for a while, and a couple of them escaped, so they became wild rabbits on the property. And we have this picture of them outside. He's full asleep in a snowbank, which is the Great Pyrenees' happiest place. They are designed for this. And there are 2 little bunnies hopping around him while he's asleep. He couldn't care less.
So that's Sage. That's the saga of Sage.
Yeah. Oh, he's a name already.
She has a name. Yeah, she
has a name. She has a name.
Like I said, they'll probably be on the smaller size because it's a female. 60 pounds is still a big dog, though. It's still a big dog. It's a big dog for our scenario, and I will run. The dog will have a great life with us. It's just we're gonna buy a house, and I don't know if I want to hide a dog for the next.
You're not even allowed to have a dog in your apartment.
I said to Jen because, and the thing is that Jen was much more pragmatic. I was the one who kind of got the Jones, but I'm able to turn that off if I need to. But I did say to Jen, I was like, if you go and talk to the maintenance people or the management office and just say, hey, we're thinking about this. What's the additional rent and what's the additional security, just in case because if we do it, if we decide to do it, I want to do it above board. I don't want to be pretend, it's not, we're not in New York anymore. So anyway, that's the saga. So Keith, speaking of moving, speaking of traveling.
Yes.
That's not a great segue, but I wanted to talk about
travel forward in our journey.
I wanted to talk quickly about a couple of things I've been watching. And one is a show that I've been excited about. I mentioned it last week and I started it. It's eight episodes. And We watched the first 3, so I feel like I've got enough to talk about thus far. Let me remember what I click, because I moved the show around. Bing.
Ooh.
The Reluctant Traveler. So, Apple TV Plus, Eugene Levy. I'm a big fan of Eugene Levy. If you're a person of a certain age and you haven't seen Waiting for Guffman, I just did a show not long ago, and somebody in the cast had not seen Waiting for Guffman. I was like,
What?
I don't care where you went to school. I don't care what training or what talent you think you have. Stop everything and go and find a copy.
I mean,
of
that's
Waiting
like
for Guffman.
basic theater education.
Yes. It's also basic, perfect movie education. You want to see a perfect movie, it's Waiting for Guffman. It is a masterclass in comedy, a masterclass in improvisation, a masterclass in balls, because Christopher Guest, I mean, Spinal Tap earned them a little cachet, but I mean, they basically made this movie with a 3-page outline and then just gave it to the cast and said, go, and made this incredible movie.
Well, when you have that talented a group of people.
So Eugene Levy has said in interviews that he is pretty much a Luddite, and he does not like traveling, does not like airports, does not like leaving the house. And when he does travel, he likes to stay at the hotel and not do anything. He also is very uncomfortable not playing a character. In fact, Johnny Shit, which is the name of his character in Schitt's Creek, is as close to him as he's ever played, he said, and it made him very uncomfortable. So what they decided to do, Apple threw a bunch of money at, they did basically an Anthony Bourdain type show, but not focused on food. It's focused on just these different places.
Focused on his misery.
Yes, and so rather than be food-centric, it is place-centric, but it's also really focuses on following a person who doesn't want to travel and forcing them outside of their comfort zone. So it's kind of both watching his slightly a character study of watching him grow, but more about these places, right?
Oh, it's like the Carl Pilkington show.
Very much like that, only completely different character than him.
Right.
So there are going to be 8 episodes. The first 3, let me get them right. Great. It's clearly not listed. Okay, yes, I got it. Costa Rica, Finland, and Venice are the first 3. Those are the ones I watched.
Interesting.
So first thing to note, and I brought this up last week when I talked about Hello Tomorrow, is it is absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. Just shot in the highest quality bit rate. It jumps off the screen. It's in HDR, Dolby Vision. The sound design is amazing. And clearly these are beautiful places. And what he kind of does every episode is they like Pura Vida. They take a catchphrase, a tourist catchphrase of every place they go, and he kind of explores by meeting different people what that means. And I'll say this, it's definitely not as deep as an Anthony Bourdain type exploration as he was, and Bourdain turned out to be a phenomenal interviewer, a conversationalist. Levy is clearly a little more uncomfortable, and so it leans a lot heavier on comedic voiceover, but he's very funny. And I find the humor to be just right if you're looking for like just bite-sized. They're 33 minutes. They don't overstay their welcomes. They're beautiful. It's exactly what you think it's going to be. It's nothing more, it's nothing less. There's a little more heart as he sort of uncovers, because what I didn't know is that he's 77 years old.
Is he really? Wow.
Yeah. And so he's doing a lot of things like crossing a high bridge, eating this type of food, getting over some of his sort of picky habits, and recognizing that it's not as deep as this, but he does recognize that these are maybe his last chance to sort of get over himself a little bit. And so there are moments of that growth thus far. Maybe there will be more moving forward, or maybe it'll just stay at that kind of glossing level. But either way, if you have Apple TV Plus, it's an absolute high recommend. And if you don't have Apple TV Plus, I don't know that this is the thing that will get you to subscribe, but there are plenty of other things. You know, you got your Ted Lasso coming back in a couple weeks, I think. You got Hello Tomorrow, we mentioned, and there's a ton of cool stuff on Apple TV Plus. So anyway, I highly recommend, if you like Eugene Levy, if you like travel shows, if you like just beautifully shot things and you want some eye candy for your HDR TV, The Reluctant Traveler.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I recommend. Anything you want to add to that, Keith? Or
I don't know. I haven't seen it. Looks good.
You gonna watch it, you think?
I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, great. Big sell by me. Next, I'm gonna quickly talk.
That's because I am Eugene Levy. That's the problem.
Yeah, you would find a lot to associate with. But you have watched? You've watched Schitt's Creek? Yeah.
Oh yes.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a masterpiece too. Okay.
Yeah, it's terrific.
Murdaugh Murders. Keith, do you know anything about this story? It's in the news right now. I mean, the prosecution just rested their case. I believe the defense is about to start.
I have seen like the headlines, but I don't know anything about it. I have not tracked it at all.
I knew nothing about it either. And so on Netflix, I don't know if it aired on Netflix originally, but it is currently a Netflix 3-part series. Of course, everything's broken up into 3 parts. And I gotta say, it is pretty interesting what is going on. This guy is clearly on trial for murder, but where the story starts has nothing to do. And I don't want to. I mean, it's mostly in the news, so it's not too spoilery. But it starts with a boating accident, and this girl that I remembered from the news a couple years ago. This girl getting lost and then found and basically killed in this boating accident by this guy's son.
Okay,
that's where this starts. At least their telling of it, and ends up with this guy on trial for murdering his son, who was in that boating accident, and his wife, and potentially and over $8 million in insurance money fraud, and lots of lying, opioid addiction, and potentially other murders. So
my question about this is, I mean, this sounds great. Like, sounds like a great like true crime sort of a splashy whatever. Mm-hmm. Is it weird that we don't know the ending of it for this miniseries, or is like this miniseries a great teaser for what's happening live, or is this part 1 and they'll do the second part after the trial?
That's a great question, Keith. But here's the thing: so this show isn't actually the focus isn't really the murder trial. The focus is about where this takes place down in the South. It's a very small town. And this family has been the solicitors, the main prosecutors and solicitors, going back like 4 generations. So they basically run the town, and they bury a lot of skeletons, and they a lot of when the kids get in trouble, going back for generations, there's some cover-ups, and so what this does is focus a lot on some small town reporting, some newspaper reporting. I can't remember the reporter's name, but she gets FaceTime in the series. And it follows how for years this community has basically covered up a lot of stuff with this family, and how this boating accident and now this murder trial has blown it up, and chickens are coming home to roost. And what's also great is a lot of the victims and people who have been either strong-armed by this family or affected by this family or ripped off by this family get some great one-to-one sit-down documentary-style interviewing to tell their side of the story. And because of when it was filmed, a lot of them are a little nervous to be on camera and to be talking about it. I'm sure they are compensated financially. But it doesn't feel too sensationalized like some of the documentaries I've seen on Netflix lately that has been bugging me. I think I've mentioned that. It's good. And if you need a primer on this case, this is a pretty good place to start. I'm actually interested. I believe HBO Max and Hulu both have their own murder things. I've read some criticism that if this was a poor family that had happened to, blah, 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 it's that they're getting all this. But I don't know that the family's being financially lined by this. I
don't know if they're like probably not thrilled about this whole situation. But yes, certainly. I mean, only wealth and privilege allows you to exploit a town for generations.
Yeah. So, I'm sure there's controversy, and I'm sure there's plenty to be critical about. But for the most part, I enjoyed it, and I think that it's also brief. It's 3 45-minute episodes. I'm sure there will be more once the trial is concluded. So, I'm interested in it. If you're a true crime junkie, there's no reason not to check it out. So that's that, Keith. And that's really all the 2 things I want to talk about today before we say our rad thing. So I know you had something to mention.
Well, I have a task for you.
Okay.
So you had mentioned that you enjoyed the Top Gun Maverick movie.
I did. Yes, I did.
Yes, indeed. And I believe you recommended it to me on the show.
Probably. Yep.
I don't remember what we talk about profoundly ever.
Yeah.
But it's Oscar season, and I know it was nominated, and I was like, okay.
It's Tom Cruise and his practical effects. He's
right,
he's up
and
there flying those
I
planes.
love the amazing practical effects stuff. That really gets me excited. So I'm like, all right. But I need to go back and watch the first one first because I'm the type of person that I can't watch a sequel without having seen the original one, and usually that means going back and watching it again.
You had never watched it, period?
No, I'd seen it.
Yeah.
But I had not seen it since I was like 10.
I haven't seen it in its entirety probably in 2 decades. Yeah, 3 decades.
Yeah, so I mean, it's probably been 30 years since I saw the first Top Gun. And so, logged into my Paramount Plus and I put it on. And I went into it remembering, even when I was 10, I was like, I don't know if this is good. Right? Watching it now,
it's not.
At my venerable age, that movie is trash.
Yep.
It is flat trash. It's not even a good version of what it's trying to be. It's utterly incoherent. I hate everybody on the screen. I don't even know what's happening. I don't know why it's important. I hated that movie on a level that I have not hated a movie in a long time.
I caution you not to watch a lot of 80s movies. Again, some of them, I wouldn't say hold up, are still funny or at least have enough nostalgia. Like the Police Academy movies, if you go back and watch, you're like, I can't even sit through a Police Academy movie. They're that bad.
Well, and but here's the thing. I'm grading on the 80s action, military
Great soundtrack.
rah-rah.
It's got a good soundtrack.
It has an amazing soundtrack, 100%.
Yeah.
But I'm grading on the curve of bad 80s military movies, right?
So interestingly,
it's bad even in that. It is utterly incoherent. There is no plot. There are no characters.
Interestingly, so Top Gun Maverick, I think is interesting.
All right, so here's my task to you is convince me somehow to watch the sequel.
Okay, so I'll do it briefly. So in its story, it's interesting. The fact how long it took to get made, the way they paused it and kind of reframed it as to when they think it should release based on COVID. They held it back for almost 3 years, I think, to release when things when they thought the curve was going down. And in the meantime, basically judged it correctly such that it's credited for basically rescuing cinema at this point, to get box office back kind of moving in the right direction. Tom Cruise showed an empathy and expressed a love for the theater, for thanking people coming to the movies again. And it was actually one of the ones that people thought was remotely authentic, which is crazy to say, to use Tom Cruise and authentic in the same sentence. But
I mean, did Xenu help?
Yeah, really. But actually, this is the best way to frame it for you, because I agree with many of your thoughts on the first one. And my brother and I had a conversation about it after we saw the second one. Okay, yeah, it hits all the nostalgic beats, right? It references things about you think you loved about the first one had you not gone back. Like the opening shot plays the theme of Danger Zone, and he rides in on a motorcycle, and it's ridiculous. A lot of the nods to the original are ridiculous, but basically, much like one of the Star Wars movies that came out, it basically redoes the first movie, right? It kind of remakes it in a way, but better and with a plot that makes sense. And
with a story or characters,
with a story, it's sort of about, in a way, the changeover of how movies are made. So it's about Tom Cruise. So they're doing away with the Top Gun program because they're moving to manned drones, which is a real thing that's happening. And so it's basically him and his last hurrah of saying goodbye to a technology, to a thing that is being outsourced and outplaced, which is analogous to what's happening to cinema. And so it has a story there. It also has a story about Val Kilmer. It's a relationship. There's a beautifully moving tribute to Kilmer and to his cameo in this movie, and which would
have been moving had there been any sort of a character or relationship or story they were referencing.
Well, so that's the interesting part of the sequel, in my opinion. I think it's a much better movie. I think it's also visually and audibly
Star Trek: The Wrath of Niner was a better movie.
But it is a sequel to the movie you think the first one was. Right? It is a sequel to your it's your sequel to the nostalgic memory of the first. It literally is, and I think so much more successful. And if I don't have anything to wager. We're both poor people, but I would wager that it is not only worth the 2 hours of your time, but that you will come back and say that was an incredibly fun movie. I'm not saying that it's great, but it's really fun. Miles Teller is good. The new cast of characters is at least, they're still stock stupid characters, but much better than the first. I think it's a better movie, and maybe wait on it until you get your 5.1s.
Okay.
Okay, and
All
then
right, fair
maybe
enough.
we'll watch a couple sequences together when I help.
I mean, God,
it's not
I'm
great,
gonna
man.
have to really
I don't
muscle
disagree.
up to watch it at all because
Geekly audience, Keith and I clearly are not the ones to do it, but do you want to defend Top Gun? If so, the comments are yours.
That is the highway to the danger zone, folks. I will say the score, amazing.
Yeah,
like the
kiss.
tunes. It's not the score. The tunes they use in that movie are like, and I think that's it. I mean, that's what's memorable about it is the songs that came from it.
A lot of testosterone. A lot of testosterone.
But not really. Like it's also like.
Yeah, they also like he has a new girlfriend in the second movie that like kind of forgets.
Of course, because his old girlfriend would have been age appropriate.
Yeah. And, I can't wait to watch the second one. We will return to this conversation. Okay, Keith, you have something rad for us this week?
Yes, I do. It was an article that I noticed on Facebook in Outsports, talking about in West Virginia. There's a drag brunch program happening there, and of course, people have been threatening it and picketing it, and I think like actually threatening violence on the drag performers.
I read about that, yeah.
And it's happening all over the country. It's absolutely asinine, and I don't got to explain to anybody who watches this how I feel about that. But here's the part here's the good part. The good part is I should look up which actual program it is. When you talk, I'll look it up. Because here it is, Ohio Valley MMA mixed martial arts program. The Ohio Valley MMA has decided to go and guard the drag brunch. And so these like badass MMA, like testosterone poisoned violent dudes are like, you want to come for the drag brunch? Tangle with us. And I was like, yes, that's awesome. I love
great.
that the intersection of that is absolutely the right thing to do. And frankly, I think I hope somebody tries because good luck tangling with an MMA fighter.
Well,
anyway,
what did Mr.
that
Rogers
made me
say?
smile. I love it.
Look for the help first, man. And sometimes it's not who you think, and that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
Can we give money to them? Maybe we should put a link if there's a.
That's a good. That's a way. I think we should give money to the drag to the drag show.
Whatever. Well, maybe we can find a link to be helpful.
So way to use your, I guess from the pictures, primarily white cis straight dude privilege in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
So thumbs up.
Yeah. Sometimes Keith, we talk a lot. That's what we do. We talk a lot, but sometimes you don't there's you have to talk at all. Sometimes if you have the privilege, you can speak with your wallet, you can help with your wallet. Sometimes you can help by just standing there and standing guard to
just physically be there. Yep. And it is a way in which you can use the privilege. I mean, if you're physically capable, if you have the privilege of being physically capable of being of use in a situation like that, you should use it.
That always reminds
me. I have, but not as much as I'd like to.
That reminds me of, when I used to think when we lived in Astoria, they were, that neighborhood was great about vigils and stuff. When there was a shooting or there was this or that, they'd have gatherings in the park and they would pass out literature, or they would have speeches, or they would just hang out. And sometimes JD mentioned about like just quitting or how people's instinct is to, and I would think, oh, that's so trite to just go to a rally or that's putting it off. And I realize that's not. Sometimes just showing up is what you can do. Maybe if even 100%. If it's the least you can do, it's something you can do.
Absolutely, and I firmly believe that. And because your just existence there as a body is an asset. Mm-hmm. It helps people. It helps gain visibility for the thing that you are supporting. It helps validate the organization that's putting it up together. And so, yeah, I think it is important to show up physically if you are able. And
I always I always appreciate when the Fred Phelps a-holes will like go to a funeral and try to to a gay person who died or something or anything remote, wherever they go to be assholes. And you have the local chapter of the Hells Angels or whatnot to show up and
100%. Well,
protect the families.
My grandparents used to do it regularly. And somebody called my grandmother, one of them called my grandmother the C word. Which was really just sweet and lovely, and they ate it up. But yeah, stuff like that's important. So anyway, love it, great. I have your back, both of y'all's. And if I ever have a chance to defend a drag brunch here in New Jersey, I'm gonna be there. I pledge to you, I will be there.
All right, I'll join. You know what? I'll double down. I'm there too.
Hell yeah, we'll do it together.
Okay, so I'll just be quick about mine too. Then, so where did I do? What is it called?
I don't know, Mike. What is it called?
There it is. So Keith, anybody who watches this show, and thank you to YouTube has been we've been being pushed. Some of our stuff has been being pushed. I've been seeing new people say they're joining us for some of our other shows. We welcome you all. We do one called. Keith and Mike watch Deep Space Nine, where we are watching every season. We're starting season 3, Keith. And my wife had offhandedly made a comment about joining me to, for our patrons, we watch Deep Space Nine together. Because of a paywall, I'm able to like watch it along and we don't have to run into all that nasty sort of like, licensing stuff. So, and there's so few of you that it really doesn't matter. So,
luckily, we're like a pimple on the butt of Paramount.
She joined me, and I have to say, we just had an absolute blast. We shared a beer. She had watched more of season 1 and read up on season 2 than I had thought, and we laughed a bunch. She almost broke a glass. The whole time I was angst ridden about spilling stuff on my equipment. And then she gave a summary at the end that we'll play on the show. We just had fun. I hope that she does it with me more times, or that it's consistent. But I have to say that, like, recently I was chatting with some friends who are single or newly single and or entering the dating realm, and just that's sex.
I resemble that.
Yeah. And I just want to take a moment of appreciation that, like, I was able to find a partner who is just not only like one of my like best friends and just enjoy time with, but is so, and I didn't recognize how important this was, is so just accepting of the weird, stupid shit I do. Like this hobby that we have, and it is, I mean, it's I guess a partial profession at this point, but it's more a hobby, is weird. It is really weird. And not only do we spend all this time recording this stuff, Keith, but I then spend a lot of time watching it back, edited, or to make sure put up on the YouTube or whatnot. She hears us a lot. And the fact that she like acquiesced to be a part of it and to be on the internet for those paying, and to just it means a lot, and it's really special, and we had a lot of fun. And I'm so excited for any patrons, K&M, patreon.com/K&M, to join us to watch Mike and Jen watch Deep Space Nine before you and I review it.
I mean, so many thoughts about this. First off, you're right. Jen is extraordinary in any number of different ways. She's like the nicest person either one of us knows.
Fair.
And it's so much nicer than we are. But that's obvious. Mm-hmm. Well, I think what makes Jen special is she's up for it.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever nonsense is happening, she's like, yeah, let's do it. She dives right in, and that just makes her pleasant in a way that neither one of us are as reliably are necessarily reliably pleasant. She is remarkably reliably pleasant. And now, second thought is you get to have a mini version of what makes this show work for me.
Yep.
Which is what is fun for me is seeing the show again through your eyes. Now you're seeing the show fresh through her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, we have this like human centipede of Deep Space Nine happening.
It's really funny, and especially she's doing what I do. It's just like you're telling me like, oh, the first 2 seasons suck, and I'm like, yo, that's an 86 or whatever we're ranking it,
right.
and I'm like, I know the Uncle That episode was pretty good, and she's like 90, and I was like, okay, cool. Can't wait to see where we go.
Well, but you guys watched this season premiere of season 3, so like I'm 100% with her. So
yeah, it was all right. It was all right.
Oh no,
It's okay.
Oh, I'm gonna be so mad at you.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna record that tomorrow.
Yep. All right, so that's it. Yeah, so we did it. We talked. So that's that. So a couple of recommends this week, but I can't recommend checking out our other shows if you're able to. And thanks to our patrons. I don't have the slide on this one, so we'll deal with it next time.
Oh, okay. Well, yes. Thank you very much to all of our patrons at patreon.com/K&M. Yeah, and check out all of our other nonsense.
That's it. Until then, listen, whatever you enjoy, don't let anybody yuck your yum. Keep on doing the things you find fun. And until next week, keep on geeking on.